All right, good morning, everybody. We're live, and you got the Aired Out podcast from the ASB Financial Studios and Fly on the Wall Productions, Main Street in Barrie, Vermont. Back as we said we would be at 10:02. We're at already 60 degrees. It's going to be warming up. It's going to be an absolutely beautiful day today. I think I was saying earlier, daytime highs right around 76 degrees today. So if you got outdoor projects, get on them on the early side of the week, not on the later side of the week, because this is just going to be perfect. We've got a nice breeze. It's going to be just great weather to get outdoors. I don't know if you've noticed today. Maybe you haven't, and that's fine if you haven't. I got the North Carolina Outer Banks shirt on.
Representing, baby.
For this guy right here, I have to. I saw it this morning, and I was like, that's the shirt I'm wearing. Chris Autry's coming in. So
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
And Raylene's not here, baby.
I know.
It's time to play. It's time to play. The Nerf guns are gone. Raylene's gone. Man, what we doing this morning?
Dude, I have to first say that above all things, I love you to pieces. I'm so glad you're here.
I love you too.
The pastor of the Faith Community Church, Chris Autry, right here in the Granite City. And, dude, you look like $1 million freaking dollars.
Well, my wife dresses me well, so I appreciate that, man. She gets all the credit.
Well, the big question, and
Yeah.
if I can't ask this,
Ask it. We're airing it out, baby.
if this bothers you, then you don't have to.
No.
You don't have to answer. But how many pounds have you lost, dude?
162 pounds. So that is since I began the journey February a year ago. So it is so different. I don't even know how to carry my body anymore. Like sometimes I don't know how to sit, and like mannerisms. Like I don't really. So I'm a lot quicker now than I used to be. You know what I mean?
Yes.
But at the same time, I still got this really bad back, and so I will occasionally walk like I'm 80 years old. But other than that, man, I'm feeling good. I played some competitive basketball against a couple sixth graders yesterday.
Sixth graders?
Yeah, 2-on-1.
They'll kill you.
They ganged up. I beat them once. I beat those boys once, and then they barely beat me the second time. So listen, I'm 42. I still got to show a little bit. I got to humble these boys. This generation coming up, they need a lot of humility is what they need.
Now, your son, Sam.
Right.
He just turned, what number?
12 going on 20.
Okay. Very much going on 20.
Yeah.
The character, personality that comes out of that kid is unbelievable.
Yeah.
So can you keep up with him, or is he trying to keep up with you? What's going on?
He's now trying to keep up with me.
Seriously?
Oh, heck yeah, man. I don't take any. Listen, I'm one of those dads that I very rarely will let my kid win. Like very rare. Like he and I like to physically wrestle.
Yeah.
And so I will occasionally let him win, but I will give him a tough fight going in. You know, I will bear hug him. I'll put him in a headlock. And,
Really?
Oh yeah. But I will let him get a little win every now and then. But when it comes to basketball, no.
It's not a father-son thing. It's a win thing.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Listen, humble this younger man. Don't they got these big heads, man. I'm popping them. I'm bringing them back to reality,
man.
Because they got to earn a win. That's my view. But they need to earn a win. It means more when they earn it. You know what I'm saying?
I love it.
Yeah, I'm not going to let these boys just have their way.
Dude, you've been so obviously eating quite differently, and you've had a number of lifestyle changes.
Right.
But of course we have to talk about your book that you've just become an author. But you're on the treadmill like every day,
5 days a week, and then so I work out 5 days a week. I love this season because in Vermont, this is my favorite time of the year is the spring, summer, fall, because I will hit a trail rather than go to the gym any day of the week.
You'd rather?
Because man, you don't get many days like this to be outside and have this sunshine, And even Vermont humidity is not the humidity I grew up with. So I love it. We absolutely love it. But I have my spinal doctor in Dartmouth only lets me work out 30 to 45 minutes tops. And so I do a lot of cardio. I work out with a lot of resistant bands. If I don't work out my back, I'm having a bad back day. So I got to keep it strong, got to keep it loose.
If you don't work out, your back acts up.
Oh gosh, yeah. Sometimes I can get away with a day, but most of the time I gotta get it. I gotta stretch.
Yeah.
I gotta get it stretched out. So I'm learning how to stretch. And before, in my size, this was a funny thing I learned the other day. A long time ago, I bought the P90X videos. Did you ever buy those?
I remember P90. Yes.
Oh yeah, I love them,
P90X.
and it was phenomenal. But as a big man, I was fast forwarding through a lot of the videos.
That's rough stuff.
It's
dude.
tough, man. It's tough. It still wears me out. But this past week, I needed a stretch day. Like my body was so I popped in the stretch video, and it used to be I could only like one or two of the things, but now like I can do the whole video.
Wow.
I can do the whole video. So and not perfect, not glorious, but I can move my body in a way where I can actually accomplish some things. So I stretched my body for the first time in ways that's never been stretched before, or not since I was a kid. And man, I felt so good afterwards. As a matter of fact, I'm feeling like I need to go do that right now. But
you've had a goal for I don't know how long to climb Camel's Hump.
Yes, sir.
You do realize that that's going to become reality here.
Yes, sir. You and me, baby.
We're going
June.
Cannot wait.
I can't wait either.
And
can't wait to do it with you.
And we're going to do a little bit of hiking to work up to that.
Yep.
But you and I are going to be out Friday. This coming Friday, we're going to hike together.
Yep. We're doing Spruce. Becca and Sam will come with us. Lily's
Wonderful.
coming, right?
Wonderful. Not sure.
Yeah.
But either way, we'll be there.
Okay.
You do realize, Sherilyn and I were talking about this morning. We were looking at the forecast here. 80 on Wednesday, 87 on Thursday, 89 on Friday, and sunny.
We probably need to go in the morning.
Dude.
Take some Gatorade, Zero, and some water.
There's going to be a few drops of sweat that's going to be.
Yes.
And I said to Sherilyn, I'm like, man, that's going to be a warm day to hike. You know what she said to me?
What?
She says, well, 89, it's probably not going to be all that humid.
Yeah.
I'm like, what are you talking about? Of course it's going to be humid.
Man.
What 89 is not humid?
89 is,
Arizona?
oh, yeah.
I mean, come on.
Hey, we took Sam to Disney in February, and it was, one day it was 90 degrees with humidity, and I kid you not, we were like, what is this on our skin?
Yes.
What's this water
It's
on our
something called
body?
sweat.
It is, and it was amazing.
Yeah.
And then we came back to negative whatever temperatures.
And
And
your
snow.
skin dried out. And
It's still dried out.
Turned into the Sierra Desert. Yeah,
That's
I
right.
understand.
Yeah.
We're going to have a great time, buddy. I can't wait. We have so much to get caught up on. But tell me about this book. I mean, I've known you for, I don't know how many years, a couple of years, not a real long time. And one of the first things that I remember saying to you when I met you is, bro, you got to write a book. And you were like, already on it.
Yeah. We always say, at least in ministry, we always say, we have an experience, we say, well, that's got to go in a book, or that's going to go, And for me, I've had a lot of these experiences, and I never journaled them. I never journaled them. And so, but in light of all that, one day, a few years ago, as a pastor, I have a library, and you've been to my office, you've seen it, and so I get books all the time. And when I get books, I get a lot of like theology books, culture books, philosophy stuff, and so there's a lot of like how-tos or information. But you know what really draws me into the book? You know what I learned from the most is the personal application narratives, like the person who says, there's this person in the story, and here's their story.
Yeah.
And it illustrates the points they're making. And so you and I were having lunch, and one day I had just spoke to a group in our denomination and shared a story with them.
Yep.
And it was a story about a moment where I ate my own crow. And
Yes.
and so I got done, and a leader in our denomination said, "Man, you have got to put that on paper. Like you need to put." So he wanted me to submit it so that it would get published in our denominational press.
Yep.
And I did, and it got published. And I couldn't believe that it got published, and that's what I came back and shared with you. And we were talking, and we had the same thing. We were like,
Yes.
man, this is like people need to hear stories.
That's right.
And in order to kind of see life more clearly, the more I started putting these stories together, and there's a lot that I took out. But the more I wrote this, the more I started to see that the common thread in all of this was these were moments that God began to provide. And I wanted to, and when we usually think about that, we think about like God provides financially.
Yeah.
But God doesn't just provide financially; He provides spiritually. He provides for your mental health. He provides for you. He does provide for you financially or physically. And so there's all these ways that God provided. And what I really wanted to do was just tell those stories.
Yeah.
And it was. This is selfish. It was very therapeutic for me because COVID was a tough season, and writing these stories every Friday for me was a chance for me to sit back and really see what God has been doing over the course of my life.
Yep.
And give me perspective and hope. And so, so I had, so when you buy Provided For, I know you're going to share the link on Amazon. I have a new case of books coming in the next 2 weeks. When you buy it, all it is stories about how God moved in my life or in the life of someone that was near me, and how He provided all of those things for these individual people.
I just want to read this. Stories play a unique role in the fabric of humanity that allows us to connect our lives with those that we are reading.
Mm-hmm.
Provided For is not a self-help manual, but a series of stories about God's faithful love in the lives of normal people. As the reader, you'll have a chance to peek into the real-life faith of real people and learn to consider, look, and relate to others that are on a journey to following Jesus Christ. You may reflect upon the story of your life and see God powerfully at work.
Right.
Isn't it amazing how frustrating it can be when, Raylene and I were just talking this morning, and I was like, hindsight's 20/20. I just left a voicemail for a friend when I was driving into work this morning. Who got some bad news. And I basically said to him, 5 years from now, you might look back at this episode of bad news and say, I thought that was a travesty at the time. I'm so glad that didn't happen, because if that didn't happen, then this wouldn't have happened. 5 years later, could be a year later.
Yeah.
But isn't it frustrating, though, that at the time, current moment, present moment, when we don't know what the crystal ball is going to look like, we don't know what the future is going to look like.
Right.
That could be really frustrating.
It could be very frustrating in the moment. But what I hope to do in this book is to show you how God, in all of His power and sovereignty, is using that moment for what's coming next. He's preparing you for something that's coming next. Listen, God doesn't waste a moment, a day, an experience, no matter how good or how bad it is. God doesn't waste those things. All of those have meaning for something. JD, when we were in Pittsburgh, we had to close down our church plant. One of the most painful things I'd ever gone through in my entire life. I've never lost a child. Never. I don't want to. I don't want to. I don't. I'm very hesitant to say this. I don't want to act like I understand what that totally feels. What it totally feels like. But closing down your church plant felt like losing a child. It was the closest thing I could relate to. But you know what it did for me? It changed the course of how I live my life, and it gave me a burden to make sure that a church never closes down again. That I'm going to do everything in my power to make sure a church doesn't close. And so that's what I want you to see. I want people to see God at work, that he's at work in these moments, and he is using that moment for good down the road, maybe even right now. But I also want you to see how God's at work in that moment.
Sometimes it can take a long time before we can look back at an experience that we've gone through and said, that really sucked at the time.
Yeah.
Hardcore.
Yeah.
But it made me respect what it felt like.
Right.
My house burned down. It made me think differently.
Right.
Of people who are going through that now.
Right.
Or someone who lost a child, or someone who had an unexpected death, a car accident, what have you. Whew.
Yeah.
But there are times where if you were to say to me, JD, trust me, there's something in this that's good.
Yeah.
I'd probably have my hands around your neck, buddy.
You would, yeah. I think that's why it's important to really empathize with somebody in the moment. We just got some bad news. My brother called yesterday and about his mother-in-law, and I think I've learned over the time not to be like, listen, this is all going to, like, no. I think it's okay to say, man, this sucks.
Period.
This sucks, and
not comma.
No.
Period.
This sucks. This is not great.
Yeah.
Let me kind of take this a little further. So let me just if you don't mind, let me tell you one story.
Bro, that's your microphone.
It's in the book, and let me see if I can give you a glimpse of this. So there was a lady in a church I served a long time ago, and she had this health issue where she had like a really poor blood circulation in her legs, and it was extremely painful, and it got to the place where she couldn't walk. She literally, she could get up out of her chair and walk 4 feet, but she could not walk more than that. And we as a church, we loved it. Her joy was just contagious, and she was always had a smile on her face. Even when she was in hospital and they were talking about amputating her legs, like her joy in those moments were just had such an infection to me. So anyway, keep that in mind. When I was in seminary, I also pastored a church in this church. My wife was a nanny, and she nannied for a high-profile celebrity in North Carolina. And I don't have the rights to share who that is right now, but they are friends of ours personally. Mm-hmm. And they were very gracious to our family. So when they would ask her to come in the evenings, they would allow me to come over, and I could study. I could help with the kids. They kind of made me a part of the family. And we just became really good friends with them. We still talk to them 2 or 3 times a year. Anytime they're near us, we usually go see them. We haven't been out to California yet. That's kind of a plan of ours in a couple of years. But one Christmas, we said, listen, our church does this big choir cantate on a Sunday morning. Becca was our worship leader. She leads that, and we invited them to church. Now, this is a small country church in North Carolina. We had probably 70 to 100 people. On choir cantate days, probably 150 people showed up. And so everybody knows each other. And when this person would walk in the room, it's obvious everyone knows who that person is. So for Becca and I, for the whole week, we prayed about inviting them, and they decided they would come. And we were so excited. And then about midway through the week, I said, Becca, our church is going to freak out. They're going to freak out because this person's going to be there, and they're going to be so excited. We want them to be comfortable. We want things to go as normal. We don't want there to be some big. So
Anything special?
Oh yeah. So we did our best to prepare our people. Like, listen, they're coming. They don't come to church. They don't have a relationship with the Lord. They don't come to church. Let's just treat them like we would any other guest. So for other than when they walked in the room, they walked in late, which immediately brought the attention to everybody. They walked in. They sat in the middle of the building, and with the exception of a few people going, our people did great welcoming them in. After church, we go to leave, and we're standing out in the front of the churchyard. We're kind of talking and stuff, and we were trying to make lunch plans, and we couldn't really get lunch plans we couldn't figure it out. And so all of a sudden, my friend who had the health issue comes out of the church down the wheelchair ramp and sees her across the yard, sees our friend across the yard, and she's about 50 yards away. Maybe 40. And all of a sudden, like an offensive lineman who's running the 40-yard dash in the NFL Combine, she gets up out of the chair. I'm your biggest fan! As she bolts across the churchyard. I'm so glad to see. This is before we had cell phones that took pictures, you know what I mean? So she whips out a camera out her thing. Please, I want to take a picture with you! And she's running. And our eyes are this big. We're all, like, a bunch of us are going, miracle! Miracle! Like, because she couldn't walk. And she would outrun Usain Bolt. She is running, and, like, we're all we don't even know what to do. And she comes over, puts her arm around, they take a picture. We're all taking pictures. And we're stunned. And then her husband comes back with the wheelchair, just wheels it right back up. And she gets right back in it and gets in her car, and she leaves. And every year, we have died laughing about that moment. And you're saying, well, what does that have to do with anything? Well, that whole lady's life is known for her medical issues. Her whole life. And you and I have friends. That's how we know them. We know them because, man, they've struggled their whole life. They've had this health issue and this health issue and this health issue. They've had this problem and they've had this divorce or whatever. And we know people by their struggles. But do you know, I don't remember her for her struggles because of that moment. What God gave me in that moment was remembering her for her joy. What God gave us in that moment was a remembrance of just sheer, like, I can still hear her and see her to this day. I still feel what it felt like that December day in North Carolina on my skin, and watching her practically tackle our celebrity friend, right? Like, I remember all this, but and listen to me, I can tell you with absolute certainty, I was in the hospital with her at least 26 times. I could tell you about having to help her think through hard conversations, from the doctor might amputate this leg, or we've got to do something with your blood. I know you're scared. I could tell you all those, but I don't remember all those hard moments as much as I remember her joy. And that's what I want people to see.
Wow.
I want people to think about, yes, you've got these people in your life, but I want you to see God has given you a different memory of them.
Yeah.
And that's what I want you to think about when you think about people.
Wow. I can't help but sit here and listen to you and think of our beloved dog, Lulu, who is still with us and getting up there very much in age. Lulu took a ride out of the car window a long time ago, when she was just a puppy, and broke her ulnar nerve. So part of her leg is paralyzed, non-functioning, and she limps around everywhere, and she's been like that her whole life. Golden Labs, they live for the tennis ball. There's nothing. There's nothing. Not even a steak.
Right.
That they care more about, or love more, or are more excited about than that damn tennis ball. and she limps around. I mean, she limps around. She's not really in pain, so we're told from the vet. But we had a boxer, a young boxer puppy who was lightning fast.
Yeah.
And when the tennis ball would go, both dogs would go after the tennis ball, and who could get it first. Lulu would smoke that boxer every time. Was lightning fast the way that she would run after that tennis ball.
Yeah.
The joy of getting there first and having it in her mouth.
Yeah.
She'd limp back, but she'd run after that tennis ball like lightning. And if you watched her, you would never, ever, ever know that there was something wrong with her leg. And it was just short bursts,
Yeah.
10, 15 seconds
Yeah.
of real intense speed. And I'm just thinking of that now.
Yeah.
And that's what Sherilyn and I
Yeah.
will remember. We will take that
Yeah.
with us.
Yeah. That's exactly right. God didn't give you just this negative view of what happened.
Right.
God's given you a memory of joy.
Yes.
About your dog that
There's some meat on that bone, isn't there?
There
though?
is some meat on that bone.
It gets somewhere in the heart, soul, somewhere, head. I don't know where, but
I think, at least for me, I'll just talk about me. I don't know about everybody else, but at least for me, I remember these things, and because I remember them, they help me to live by faith in the future. So I approach things now like nothing crazy or monumental, but like right now, Becca and I are talking through some things, and I'm like, well, we've been down this road before, right? Okay, well, because we've been down this road before, look what God did last time. Maybe He'll do that again, or maybe He'll do something different. Like what we know is that God will bring us through this. Nothing bad, but just normal decision making kind of thing.
Yeah.
That's what I want people to do. I want people to read the book. I want them to relate to the stories, but I also want them to look and consider in their own life how God has been at work.
Yeah.
And how He is at work right now.
Yeah.
One of the stories that I took out of the book, because Becca and my dad and was kind of told me that I was a little bit mean-spirited, and she said, Chris, you really should do a podcast so people will know, like they'll know your voice in this. So we're really praying about that, thinking through that. What does that look like? Because I have no idea how to do a podcast. I enjoy doing this with you, so it thrills me to do something. But
it's no different.
But I had we were in a really tough church several years ago. And we've always been in really tough churches. Mm-hmm. And if you are not a believer in Jesus Christ, churches can be tough. And so I'm not going to really hide anything there. They were just always really hard on their pastor. And it was kind of the best of times and worst of times. Like God did some amazing things through our church, but we had a small group of people that just caused like a toxic kind of thing. And so just caused some toxicity in our congregation. And one day, every year, they tried to fire me. It was their MO. That was what they did. And they did it to the previous guy. They did it to the guy before that. That was their thing. So one year, they were gonna fire me. That was their plan. This little small group of people, because they didn't like.
Who love to try to find something. They're always walking around with a magnifying glass.
Yes. Oh yeah.
And that's their MO.
And listen, they did have something on me. We created a bus bylaw a month before we had this kids camp, and we would take our bus into the housing communities to pick families up and bring them to church.
Yeah.
And the bylaw says I'm only allowed to have 18 kids on the bus. Well, I put 18 people on the bus, but what I forgot to count was myself and the two other people helping me.
Shame on you.
I know, right? So I didn't think about it. So all week long, I'm running, and so that was what they had on me. So.
That's serious.
Oh, yeah. And they did a lot of really painful things to us. But we really stuck it out. And so one day, one day, again, a small group of people, and like less than 20 in the church. We were a church about 200, 250 at that time. And so one day, Becca's grandmother had come to stay with us. And this lady is probably the best grandmother in the world. She has dementia right now, and she is the most joyful, pleasant spirit you've seen anybody with dementia. I mean, she is the best, right? And so we were pretty worn out by all this, and she comes to stay with us and cooks for us, and we had Sam. She played with Sam, and we just had like the best weekend. We were going to take her halfway home and let Becca's parents pick her up and take her the rest of the way. And so Becca drops me off at church, and they get down the road, and all of a sudden her grandmother gets sick. And so Becca turns the car around, brings her back to the church. We had a children's building at our church, and she knew that no one was in the children's building. So she didn't want to get her and Sam sick, me sick. She wanted to give her a kind of a private space. Uh-huh. Her parents were going to come pick her up. And she, so she takes her in the building. She goes to the bathroom, and she's just, bless her, man, she's just not feeling well. And Becca and Sam are in a little nursery room playing. He's a baby, and all of a sudden, man, it was like thunder. Footsteps are coming from the basement of the building. The profanity was like lightning coming out of the hallway. And these two men who were the leaders of that group that had done that just tried to control things come running up the stairway and covered in the demon that was in her grandma's stomach, and looked at Becca and said, "Who is in the bath?" And Becca's like, "I have no idea." They said, "The pipe from the bathroom is busted, and we're down there fixing it." And it was a moment where, oh gosh, yeah. And it was, this sounds so arrogant, but it was a moment where they run out the room, right? They run out of the building. They had to go home, and Becca comes and gets me and says, "Chris, the two men who have been causing all the problems,
redemption.
God just because the whole way God told us not to defend ourselves, not to vindicate ourselves, and God did it for us. The Bible says that vengeance is the Lord's, and so we just rested in that. And I told Becca, I'm like, we could not have planned a revenge like that.
No.
But it was the moment God said, I'm going to defend you. I'm your defender and protector. And
I got you back.
Yes. And so when you have moments like that, what do? We go back and we think, remember how God, so we're not going to put up a fight when somebody gets mad and about stupid stuff.
Is this in the book?
No, I took it out. Because in the book, the way I wrote it, I really did sound mean about it, and I didn't want to get misunderstood.
Yes.
And so Becca was like, "You got to take that out."
And it's easy, very easy, to be misunderstood.
Oh yeah. Wow. Oh yeah. It was.
Man, you shared a story with me long time ago, but you were sitting right here in the chair that you're sitting in. We were not on the show. We were not on the podcast.
Yeah.
We were off the air. And I'm just wondering if it's in your book. And I'll tell you right now, if it is, it's worth buying the book just for this story about an encounter that you had with somebody at a restaurant.
Oh yeah.
Is that in the book?
It's not in the book.
It's not,
because again, I didn't want to get misunderstood. That I was being mean, but it was a day where God forced me to
confront
somebody who, again, had hurt me, and I was very angry with them.
Yeah.
And I had no choice but to confront them.
Was this person an enemy? Do you have any enemies?
Do I have an enemy? I try not to have enemies. Sometimes it's unavoidable. And sometimes, if I'm honest, I can become someone's enemy. And I really
being done wrong is being done wrong.
Well, so this person, so what happened is when you start new churches in your denomination, you have these denominational leaders. and they have to make business decisions, and which I have a really hard time, because I think as a Christian, we need to lead with biblical principles in our business decisions. And so the long story short, there were promises that were made to help us to plant, and it felt like it was every day, but it was really about every year, every 8 months, changes were made. And a lot of times we weren't kept up to those changes. And so the funding that we had to support us in starting our new church was removed. And it was removed early. We were promised like 7 years. We were only given like 3. And the Lord had really helped me to see the writing on the wall. And I knew it was coming. And I could see it coming, and I was like, I'm not putting us in this situation, like, because they would have just dropped us completely.
Yeah.
And so I had to really trust the Lord and start making some decisions for our family, which was not easy. Like, it was really painful. But the person who made that decision, I had, man, I'm not gonna lie, it was hard for me to face them and not put my hands on them. I mean, it was. Because they would tell us one thing and then do another, and it was just constant. And I really had grown to trust this person, and I had lost trust in this person.
And resentment can grow.
Oh gosh,
in a human being, no matter who you are, no matter if you're a man of God, no matter if you're an active member of your church or not. It doesn't matter.
Oh, my heart can be bitter. Chris Autry still fights moments of bitterness.
Well, we're all human.
Oh gosh, yeah.
So you had built up some pretty hardcore resentment.
I was mad, and I intentionally did everything I could to avoid seeing this person, and avoid contact this person by email, because I was going to give a piece of my mind.
I can relate.
As my South Carolina mom says, I was going to show my butt. That's what she says. So. So when Faith Community Church called us to become their pastor, we were in the process of moving, and our halfway point was Harrisburg, PA, where this man's office was. And they had a house for missionaries to come and stay in. We actually still stay there. We have great relationships with the new leaders there. And a friend who still worked for them said, Chris, we were on our way here. I want you to come a little early, stay at the volunteer house. I want to take you to dinner. So she took us to Longhorn, across the street from where we were staying. And we sit down, and she says to us, she says, listen, you can't go to Vermont carrying the baggage of what you just went through. They need somebody with a fresh heart and fresh mind. You have to make a decision right here, right now, to leave this stuff here. You can't carry the Vermonters deserve to have a whole Chris and Becca Autry. They don't need the bitterness you carry. And that was easier said than done. So we're sitting around this table, and we're talking, and I could see the guy walk in the restaurant by himself, and I'm like,
What?
I get up, I go to the bathroom, because we're not doing this. I'm going to the bathroom. I stay in the bathroom until I'm pretty sure he's at his table. And wouldn't you know it, God would put his table right next to the bathroom door.
Stop it.
So I did the whole, I'm not going to look at you thing. So I walked out of the bathroom and just ignored him and walked to my table. And Becca's back is to him and stuff. And so our friend was, she's still like, listen, when you've got to, Chris, this is how you gonna lay this out, And
did she know that he walked in?
She knew he walked in, and she knew what role he played in us leaving. So she walked in, and she said, you know what we need to do? We can't let David sit by himself. Chris, why don't you go up there and ask him to sit with us? I'm like, I'm not going to sit with him. Brother,
be so blessed that I wasn't with you.
Yeah.
Okay? Just please.
She said, man, she said, you've Chris, go ask him. And I'm like,
she wouldn't have liked me.
I'm not. And then Becca gives me the look. You know the look your wife gives you, like, you need to go do this. Like, she communicates. Yeah. And I'm like, I'm not going over there. And I am all but telling her with anger why I'm not going over there.
Bro, I would have been like, we are going over there.
So
Let me tell you.
So I got up and I'm grumbling, and I go over and I see him sitting there with his meal. I see his jacket. He's sitting kind of in the booth and his jacket's next to me. And I said, come here. That's what I said, come here. And he looks up at me and he realizes who it is. And he's like, Chris? I said, come here. Come here. Come here. Come here. Like, Cosby,
Now, and because I'm going to put you in a chokehold.
And I said, I want you to come eat with me. And he's like, and I finally just grab his coat, I grab his plate, and I carry it to my table. I didn't say anything else to him. And he sits down next to my wife. He sits on the other side from me. And I threw his coat on a chair. I slid his plate across the table, and I sat down, and I just looked at him. And I was hot. I was hot. And I was doing everything I can to suppress what's in me. And I just sat there, just looked at him like this the whole time. And I watched him cautiously eat his steak. And I am cautious. I don't remember what I had. I just stared him down like this the whole time. And our friend is sitting next to him across from me, and she is doing her best to create whatever small talk she could create. And I am doing my best not to just strangle him. But I will tell you, JD, and I listen, I walked out of there, I shook his hand, but I didn't give him more than that. I couldn't. I could not emotionally give him more than a handshake. But when he left that night, and we left that night, I felt like I could leave a good bit of that anger on that table. Because I couldn't say anything. There wasn't anything that I could bring myself to say that would have been wholesome and good. Like don't walk away thinking like everything was wrote. Like, no, I couldn't say, I need an apology from you. I never got an apology from you. Like, I couldn't do that. I couldn't say, you lied to us. I couldn't do that. But what I felt like walking away from that moment was a burden lifted off and left at the table, that I could face an enemy, that I could confront. I could confront pain. I could confront animosity. What the Lord gave me in that moment was one last moment to drop a burden off and leave it somewhere. And you know what, man? I kid you not. It's over 6 years now. I don't have anger. I'm not angry with him. You know why? Because God brought us to Vermont and gave us a new season and a new people we love, a new place that we love, a place we've endured, a place we've persevered. And if I saw him now, I don't think I would punch him in the face. I think I would shake his hand a lot more warmly than what I did that night. I think I am a lot wiser. I think, too, I know how to face somebody when I see somebody, even in our own denomination, doing another person wrong. I know how to look them in the eye now, sternly but lovingly, and say, you're going to fix this. You've done this person. Like, I know how to stand up for people because I know what's been done to me. I think the Lord allowed me to offload that day.
What an amazing story, and it's something that, as a father, that this is a gift.
Yeah.
That you're going to give to Sam.
Yeah. Yeah. Well,
and long after you're gone, brother.
That was the motivation behind all this. Like, I discovered I wanted Sam and my grandbabies down the road. I wanted my great-grandkids down the road. I wanted them to have a piece of our story. It's not really our story. It's the story of what God has done.
Yeah.
I wanted them to have that for record for future generations. I wanted Sam to say, this is how I came into this family. This is how this family started. Yeah. I wanted him to say, look at what God did in my life, in the life of my parents.
Sure.
I wanted that record to be done and given to them. And listen, you buy the book. I feel like I feel like a musician who's come up with their first CD. Like, there are some technical errors in the printing of the book that I have learned from, and I'm going to fix for the next book. But
Next?
Yeah, I've got a couple more that I'm stirring around with. I'm taking a break. I'm spending time. I don't want to say publicizing this, but I'm spending time just kind of talking with people through this. But I've learned a lot, and I hope it blesses and encourages others.
At what point did you say, in the book, by the way, is called Provided For, Stories of the Normal Works of God. Chris Autry, the author, local pastor right here at our Faith Community Church in Barre, Vermont. At what point did a switch go off where you said, I'm going to
Right.
actually publish a book. I'm actually going to capture all of these stories, and I'm going to put them in a book. I'm going to do this. Hey, Becca, I'm going to do this. At what point? Did you wake up in the middle of the night? How did it?
I think it was 3 moments. One, it was when I was stirring with it. Like in me, I kept thinking about it, imagining it. And in my head, I kept saying, I would put this in the book, and I'd put this in the book, and I would tell the story this way. And then when I went before denominational leaders, they asked me just to come and give a small word and like a 10-minute thing, and I told one of the stories in the book. And for them to say, you got to publish this, I want you to email it to me right now, and let us publish this story. And then all of a sudden, it didn't get like wide acclaim. Like it wasn't like shared around the world. Well, it kind of was, but it wasn't like people were like, "Oh, I want to know more." That's not what happened. But I had a handful of people who were like, "I want to hear more." And then you and I said at lunch one day, this is number 2 at Two Loco Guys, and I shared that story with you.
Yeah.
And I said, "JD, am I crazy? Would you buy a book?" You know, and this is not a shameful plug. Like, I'm not forcing you that, but like you said, I would read that, and I would read every story you'd give me after that. Like,
yes.
I can resonate with that. The last one was actually my dad. My dad is writing a book. He likes kind of sci-fi fiction stuff, and he is writing a book. And I had shared that story it had gotten on Facebook, and a few hundred people had read it. And my dad was like, "Son, you need to put that on paper. Like, people need to hear this." And so I felt like, okay, that's my dad. You know, my dad's a little biased, but JD said I need to do this, and JD might be a little biased too, but
I am.
But my denomination leaders are not, because they're also the kind of people who will say to me, "You're a knucklehead."
Yeah.
So I just felt like, okay, I'm gonna sit down and do this.
Well, a lot of us have great stories to share.
Yeah, oh yeah.
But those stories may not provide anything of a useful tool that we can actually take, use, practice, go forward with.
Right.
Even though they might be a great story, an interesting story.
Right.
And I think that's what I said to you is if there's real purpose behind reading this book and taking some of these stories and practicing them, sharing them in your life, then you've got to write it.
Right. Well, think about it this way.
Why do people want to read this book? And that's, if you can answer that, you got it.
Well, so first of all, there's Sam right there. We remember stories.
Yeah, of course we do.
You just said it. Like, you told me a story right here.
Yeah.
We remember stories.
Yes.
And in particularly, I want to tell the stories of what God is doing right now.
Yeah.
He is alive, and he's at work in all of our lives right now. And so more than you'll remember some kind of informative thing,
sure,
you'll remember a story. So if you will tell your
or a
story,
movie or a song,
yeah,
a movie or a song, of course, absolutely.
Yeah. So I think, why not tell the stories? Why not come along and you, because you've got these stories in your own life. You talked about your dog.
Yeah.
You know, why not share those stories? Because somebody's going to relate to that. Even I'm not worried about, like, I have no goal in mind of going on Good Morning America with my book.
Sure.
My goal is, if a few people around me read this story and are impacted, and they can not only start sharing that story but their own story, To God be the glory.
Does this have to be a reader who believes in God, believes in Jesus Christ?
Matter of fact, if you in the
Did
intro,
you just say no?
No, in the intro, I made absolutely clear this book is for the person who doubts, who doesn't believe. It's for the person who. It's for the agnostic. It's for the atheist. It's for It is for, and it's not just for Christians. At the end of the book, I want people to think. I want them to see that this idea of God showing up and working in this way has always been what God has done through history. But God has not been so distant from us. God has even, when you take the man Thomas in the New Testament, who followed Jesus, like he saw miracles happen, and Christians proclaim him as doubting Thomas. I don't think that's an accurate portrayal. I think he's a man who trusts God, but he just needs verification. He needs proof. And Thomas is the one that Jesus went to after he rose from the grave. He went to Thomas and said, Thomas, touch the scar in my hand. Do you want to see proof that I'm alive? See the scar? Let me pull up my cloak. Touch this scar on my side. This is where they stabbed me on the cross. Jesus invites you. Jesus initiates with you and I that you can know him. He allows even the skeptic to come along. And he doesn't just talk the story, but he invites you to use your hands and your fingers and all your senses to see that he's alive and he's real. And that's what I really wanted to accomplish in the book. I wanted anybody who picked up the book to read it and to get a fresh perspective of faith, even the skeptic who needs evidence.
You had a moment in your life where, and I don't know if it was rock bottom, maybe it was. I don't know. You just had some real hardship, financial hardship, mental hardship, emotional hardship. Things were really crappy.
Yeah.
And I call it the Pepsi story. I don't know is it in the book?
That one's in the book.
Can you share a little, or would you rather not?
Yeah, I'll share it with you.
I mean, don't give too much away. We want folks to read the
Well, there's
detail.
a bunch of other stories in there. And I've told you stories that are not in the book. But
you've been addicted to Pepsi.
I am a Diet Pepsi fan. Matter of fact, after gastric bypass, the only thing that I miss in my life is Diet Pepsi.
Whoa!
I kid you not.
More than barbecue?
More than barbecue. I'm trying to learn how to do barbecue with lean meat now. I miss Diet Pepsi and Diet Root Beer like none other. Becca is here. She called it my pacifier. It was, having a hard day, I drink a Diet Pepsi. And when you go to plant a church, start a new church, you have to kind of raise your own funds. And so we were in that process, and our denomination would only support us so much. And so we were living off a $2,000 a month budget, and it was tight. We only got paid once a month. We had churches that would support us, but we never knew when they were going to send us financial support in addition to what our denomination would send us. So it was lean and mean in our house. The ice cream truck would roll by every night at 7 o'clock when Sam's getting ready for bed. And most nights we didn't have money for ice cream truck. We didn't have the 75 cents for the ice cream.
Wow.
We had no extra money, none. And one day I was teaching pastors, young pastors in Pittsburgh, how to preach. I had a class on a Monday night. I would take them down, and I had about 6 or 7 guys. And so I was packing my bag, and I just wanted a Diet Pepsi, like I felt like I deserved it. You know what I mean? Like it really wasn't a bad day. It is just like I'm a grown man. I'm trusting God with my finances to provide for me, and I don't have the money for a $1.11 can of Diet Pepsi. And dadgummit, I just want one. And I was having this pity party in me, and I'm packing my bag, and I'm going to teach these guys, and I'm having to think about like how much gas is going to cost me to get there and get back, and will that give me enough gas to get Sam to preschool, and just like I'm thinking about all the finances, and I just want $1.11 for a can of Diet Pepsi. And the more I thought about it, the more angry I grew. And it was like the beast out of the movie Stranger, or the show Stranger Things. Like, it was growing in me. So I walked to the car. I throw my bag in the car, and I realized that this car was given me by my parents. My mom she has habits of doing the same thing her parents did growing up. And my grandfather, who was a very wealthy man, he had passed away a few years prior. He had this habit of taking $100 bills and sliding them in the armrest. Now, back then, the armrest would unzip, and there was foam in them. He would slide them in there for emergency purposes. And I had been with him on many occasions when we had a flat tire or something happened, and we would pull out the $100 bill. So I was thinking, maybe my mom put some money in the armrest. So I unzip the armrest of the car. I'm pulling the foam out of the armrest. There's nothing there. And I'm just
you got the floor mats up?
Oh yeah. Oh, that's the next thing. Pull up floor mats, looking for coins. Looking underneath the seat, rubbing my hands. I got a flashlight from my phone underneath the seat. I'm digging up coins, and I'm finding it, and I'm getting hopeful. I'm getting hopeful here. You know what I mean? I pull open the console, yank everything out of the console, nothing there. Glove box, everything is spilled out. You know, I'm pulling down the visors. I'm looking at those. I'm trying to see if they got a zipper on those. I go to the back seat to the armrest. I'm pulling all the foam out of the armrest. I'm looking, and man, I'm digging between the cushions. I lay the seats down. I'm digging through the trunk. I go all through the car, and I found like 84 cents in the car. And I am destroyed, and I'm angry, and I'm mad. And I get in the front seat of the car. All this stuff is just all over the car. I get in the front seat of the car. I turn the car on, and I, in anger, I'm crying, and I'm screaming, and I'm like, God, I've trusted you to get me here and to provide for my needs. And all I want is a Diet Pepsi. I'm a grown man, and I can't even afford myself a Diet Pepsi. And I am just yelling in the car. I am screaming at God in the car. And I'm just having a fit. And there's a big Christian radio station in Pittsburgh, and it's on the air. And I'm like, I don't want to listen to Christian music or Christian radio right now. And so I'm digging through to find like my, my Zach Brown band CD, and I'm like, I'm not having it. And I'm looking through the CDs, and there's this, there's a preacher on the radio, and he's preaching from Luke chapter 2. And he talks about the moment that when Jesus was born, Simeon held him, and Simeon had been looking forward. He asked God, keep me alive until I can see the Messiah. Now he's not just seeing the Messiah, he's holding the Messiah in his hands. And the young, just very eloquent preacher looks at the congregation and on the radio, and he says to them, Simeon is holding the substance of God's faithfulness, like he can touch the faithfulness of the Lord. And he's just really, and in that moment, my anger just gets subdued, and man, the Holy Spirit just starts convicting me, and I'm coming to the point of tears. And then as commonly done on Christian radio, when there's a Christian preacher, there's this kind of intermission moment where like maybe the ministry is publishing a book, and they're, and the guy comes on the radio and he says, man, we really appreciate you listening to Faith Community Church Lakeside in McMurray, Pennsylvania. You're listening to Pastor Chris Autry, who is starting a church in the South Hills area of Pittsburgh. And if you want to find out more, you can go on our website, and you can find him. And in just a moment, he's going to conclude this message with a story. And I'm sitting there in the car. I thought I hit every kind of low point. But it was in that moment that God convicted me with my own sermon. And I am now, instead of weeping in anger, just weeping in humiliation. And I am just like sobbing You
didn't know you were listening to yourself?
Had no idea. I was trying to change the radio. I wanted some fried chicken on a Friday night from Zach Brown Band. Like, that's what I was digging around for, right? And I am sobbing, but it doesn't end there. I turned the car on because I still had to go teach these guys how to preach. And I am not in a good place. So I had to put on the happy face. You and I talk about that, right? Like sometimes we fake it till we make it. So I'm having to fake it. So I had a 30-minute car ride to fake it, right? And I get to where I'm going. I get to the church, and the guys they're waiting on me. I'm about a minute late. And I'm walking down the hallway, and I see my friend Michael. He was the church treasurer. Now, Michael is the chief accountant for Del Monte Foods. And every Monday, Michael flies out of town. He has to go somewhere, and he has to go work the books. And he usually flies back in on Tuesday morning. This is a normal routine. Sometimes he'll fly out on Sunday and then stay till Tuesday. But most of he's gone every Monday. But Michael, for some reason, is in the office. I see him. He waves at me, and I'm like, "What are you doing here?" He's like, "Well, I got on the plane this morning, and as I was on the plane, I got an email that something happened. I had to come back to corporate, and so they turned the plane around and flew me back to corporate, and I'm gonna be here the rest of the week." And I'm like, "Oh," and he's like, "So I just thought I'd come in tonight and balance the books and all that kind of stuff." That was his normal routine. He would come in like Tuesday and balance the books. And so I didn't think anything of it, not one thing of it. I go to teach my class. Everything's going well. About 3/4 of the way through my time with the guys, I'm having them, write down some notes and stuff. And Michael comes in with an envelope, and he says, "Hey, Chris, this came in the mail for you today, and I thought maybe you could probably need this today." Now, Michael had no idea about no one knew about what happened before. Right? I'm at a low point. I'm discouraged. I'm angry. And I take the envelope. I put it in my bag. Because I couldn't really open it in front of them. I finished the class, turn off the lights. I opened the envelope, and it was a check for $1,000. And the Lord not only convicted me, humbled me, but just reminded me. Not only will he provide for my needs, but that $1,000 check was like 1,000 encouragement letters that I needed in that moment. Now, I tell that story, and what normally happens is people bring me Diet Pepsi. Still to this day, people will bring. But I can't drink Diet Pepsi. So please, nobody bring me Diet Pepsi. It will mess me up. But I'll be honest, I don't remember if I got Diet Pepsi after that. But because what was it lost on me is how God just journeyed me through this moment of conviction, and then just lovingly came up behind me and was like, "I know all your needs and your wants. I know them all, and I'm going to provide for them all." And I'm embarrassed about that moment, but at the same time, he still does that because he's that good.
Does this man know this story?
I probably told Michael was a friend, so I probably bawled in tears in front of him. He was still there when I left. I'm pretty sure I told him, but
it's in your book.
Yeah, and look how God worked all that. God diverted his flight on a Monday like he's supposed to be, and Michael's just doing what he normally does. But Michael didn't know that God was because listen, if Michael had not done that, it would probably have been Sunday before I'd have gotten that check. Because I didn't come down there, but just every so often. Where I was living was where I was meeting people and working to start a church. So, but the Lord is so powerful and so sovereign that He orchestrated Michael's flight, the check, me wanting a Diet Pepsi, not finding the money, the sermon on the radio that was me preaching to myself
that you didn't even know.
Had no idea. God orchestrated all of that, and He's still doing that today.
And if you had that grand in cash, seriously, you probably would not have gone out and bought the Diet Pepsi that night because there's a message here that is so much greater.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
Than whether or not your night ended up with a Diet Pepsi.
It's moments like those that we have learned to trust Him, and to this day, Becca and I were talking about this yesterday. We've trusted Him before. We will trust Him again. And He knows these things, so we will trust Him. We will trust Him with those things that we are praying about and thinking about.
One of many stories in Chris Autry's book, Provided For, Stories of the normal works of God. It's out now. Get it on Amazon.
Right.
Will we be able to buy it locally?
I have not worked any of that out yet. I'm still slowly.
Okay. When you do, if you do, you'll let me know.
Yeah.
So I can let everyone else know.
Absolutely.
But in the meantime, get it on Amazon.
Absolutely. Yep. It's $10 for the paperback. It is it's $2 or $3 for Kindle. If you have Kindle Unlimited, it's free. It's free.
I can't wait to read this.
Yeah, man.
And listen, pick this book up for yourself.
Yep.
Read it.
Yep.
When you're done reading it, please don't put it on the shelf.
Yeah, give it to somebody.
Give it to somebody.
Give it to somebody. Somebody needs that kind of encouragement.
Even if it's a stranger that might look like they need to read this book.
I will not be offended if my book ends up on a free bookshelf. I want people to. I care about people seeing God's movement. So I give it away.
Incredible.
Thank you, buddy.
Get it now. Provided for Stories of the Normal Works of God. It's out. It's right now. This is every word that's in this book has got a lot of love behind it, a lot of patience, a lot of time invested, hope, money, and everything else. Patience, not only you had to be patient, but your family had to be patient, because when you're writing, you're writing.
I'm writing, yes.
If a bomb hits the house, you're writing.
I'm writing. That's what they gave me, a lot of space every Friday for about a year and a half to finish it. And I'm so thankful for them. And it's something I want to continue to do. So.
Thank you, brother.
Yeah, thank you, man.
Love you to pieces.
And we didn't get shot with a dart. Raylene came back. Love you, man. Thank you so much.